And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 72. Well, we are still down in Mexico on our Mexican residency. Perhaps some of you saw our little Buick update in Janky Do Thanky, and please check that out if you haven't, if you're so inclined, if you like Buicks. But today we're talking about Aerostars, as usual. And today we have another fantastic Aerostar down in Mexico. I've mentioned that a lot of these Aerostars are kind of on the jankier side, and all I'll say about this one before we debut it is that I had trouble picking which color shirt to wear. So without further ado, here is a 1991 Ford Aerostar listed for 35,000 pesos, which a quick check will reveal is $1,907.52, listed in Cuauhtemoc, Ciudad Mexico City. Ciudad, Mexico. Ciudad means city. Mexico. All right, about this vehicle, driven 160,000 kilometers. It has an automatic transmission. The exterior color is brown with, rust coloration, if you get that reference. And the interior color is beige. Beige. The fuel type is gasoline. Seller's description. Time to butcher some Spanish, shall we? Vendo bonita camioneta familiar. Selling a beautiful, I think camioneta is like a wagon, maybe, something like that. Familiar, family. Toda automática, guessing Toda is transmission. Detalles de su año, ojo no es nueva. Something about the year. Something is not new. Todo el funciona motor y caja en buen estado. The motor is functioning great. I don't know what the caja is. Transmission again, maybe. Servicios cada seis meses. Buena para carreta. Llantas media vida. I should know what llantas means by now. I've seen that quite a few times. Casi lista para pintar. Programadora de viaje. Ooh, something programmable, computer maybe. Aire acondicionado, air conditioning. Muy espaciosa, very spacious. Precio a tratar poco. Toda en regla. Mayores informes por WhatsApp. For more information, contact me on WhatsApp. Okay, so we're burying the lead here. Look at this wonderful, wonderful janky paint job, and I just absolutely love, it's just a bare metal primer, but then we have a strange white bumper going on here in the rear, which I absolutely love. Now, I would imagine these bumpers came in like a gray plastic or a flat, maybe in a black plastic, so the fact that it's been painted, it appears to be painted, but painted not at all. The rest of the body color of the vehicle. In the front, it looks like we have maybe a blue, or maybe that's just a gray bumper from the factory, missing a little side bezel and amber turn signal there. And the funny thing about this one is it was already a two-tone Aerostar, but you can barely tell because the colors are similar. It's another one of these great, gold on beige ones, but then you just have all these random rust spots that have been covered up. But I'm beating you all over the head with this, but obviously the thing I love about janky is I say it's sort of like the aesthetic that develops from functionality. And, you could have a car an Aerostar that, the colors all match, but it's got rust spots all over it. Or you could have one where the rust has all been repaired, but it's got a lot of these weird little primer spots on it. And I prefer this because, to my mind, this is more functional, and the aesthetics that follow from that I actually think are quite striking. I quite like it. I don't know, it just, it has that random sort of weird spottage going on that I think looks quite nice. Now, this is a beautiful photograph. Janky Do Thank You, whoever took this. You have this wonderful, blue sky. It looks like, the sun is shining. It looks warm. These little buildings back here, there's orange and yellow. The janky colors are just outstanding. It's so bright and vibrant. And you have these beautiful little green basketball hoops in the background, what I think are basketball hoops, in this lovely shade of green. And then the car sits just outside of the sun line, so it doesn't have a bright light on it. It has more of just like a clouded overcast light over it, but the contrast of this beautiful, vibrantly lit up background with this stunning Aerostar sort of in the foreground is just really, really nice. This will be an excellent YouTube thumbnail. So very appreciative of the seller for taking such beautiful photos. Obviously, we have some aftermarket wheels here. My stance usually on aftermarket wheels is I'm not a huge fan generally, but I will say these just like nice solid 5-spoke wheels look quite nice on this Aerostar. It doesn't look too anachronistic or like, you know, out of place time-wise, temporally. And just a tiny little center cap hole there. Deep sockets, deep wells there for your lug nuts, which is interesting. And I can't tell if these are silver and blemished or actually if they're white. They would look really good. They almost look painted white, and that actually really looks nice, especially with your white rear bumper here. So really excellent start here. Quite a few pictures on this listing. Again, excellent listing, and I guess we should see our translation now to see how badly I speak Spanish. Selling nice family truck. There you go. So maybe camioneta must be truck. All automatic. Details of its year. I is not new. Everything works, engine and box in good condition. Services every 6 months. There you go. So servicios cada 6 meses, so months. Good for road. Half-life tires. That's kind of a funny way to say there's 50% tread remaining on the tires. They're half-life tires. Almost ready to paint. Well, you know, I would say already has been painted. Okay, casi lista para pintar. Okay, almost ready to paint. I'm learning Spanish. You're all watching me learn Spanish. You're a travel programmer, so I think that's like you're above your computer console there. On the inside. Air conditioning, very spacious. Price to treat little. I don't know what that means. All in rule, sure. More reports by WhatsApp. Okay, so a little problem there with the Google Translator. Not the most pinpoint accuracy, but that's okay. We get the gist of it. Obviously an extended Aerostar here. 91, so right in the sort of middle of the transition run, and as we can see in this picture here, that looks to be confirmed by this grille. Now it looks like the Ford logo, the blue oval, has fallen off, but you still see it is centrally located there, so that kind of checks out. A little rough around the edges, you know, obviously needs this, you know, your bezel. I don't know how, that seems to be like it'd be a hard piece to get right there, quite honestly, and your amber turn signal, which wouldn't be that hard to get. So a good shot of the front. Not much rust going on in the front here. The back, again, I love this white bumper. I think it just looks really nice there. I would almost paint the front bumper white too, just to really like just sort of set it off there. Your Aerostar badge is removed, but look close here. And what is that? Does anyone know what that is? I think that might be an Eddie Bauer badge, which would be something. Now, again, now this is going to be really hard, because now maybe this is why they painted the bumper white. You have a brand new white sliding door here, and this just looks outstanding. You know, you already have the rust coloration going on. Now you just slap a big white door in there. And the funny thing is, when you see things like this, it gives you a new perspective on the design of the vehicle, because you see it in a way you've never quite seen it. When something's painted all one color, sometimes it helps show off the design, and sometimes, you know, it kind of, your eye just sort of blends everything together and you don't really take in the lines that are going on here. The dilemma now is which photo to make my YouTube thumb. This one I think might actually have to be it, as nice as that last one was. Because this really just shows off the true jankiness of this Aerostar. And I noticed right here we were missing a side mirror and a little plastic panel right there. Really just fantastic. You know, in terms of janky aesthetics, this one really just takes the cake. The other thing I'm noticing now is you have 3 aftermarket wheels and 1 factory alloy wheel, which is lovely. Missing your center cap, obviously, but I always love this style wheel. It's just so cool how it's got this, it's suggesting motion. It almost looks like a little footprint, and then it just has, your big sort of like triangle piece, but then just another little thing right on the bottom, or it looks like an animal hoof or an exclamation point, perhaps. You can be creative with it, but I really like the shape of it. It's a really, really good sort of 90s factory wheel. Now, I always talk about how I like these really thick alloy wheels, how they don't sort of give too much away. And obviously you have some space in there to allow for cooling of your brakes, but unlike these really thin, tiny alloy wheels now, it just looks beefy and solid. It just looks, sort of satisfying, especially under these nice tires, these half-life tires. Looks like you got, a good chunk of rubber there to absorb any bumps in the road. And just an outstanding picture. I would not do a thing to this Aerostar. I would put a side mirror on it. Maybe I'd even get a truck mirror so that's even more asymmetrical on the passenger side here. I'd put in the amber turn signal and then good to go. Just drive it as is. The mismatched wheels, the mismatched door. Even the glass, like on this newer door, looks to be like in a little bit better condition. And I think what this door does to me is it highlights just how angular these windows are. Now, I just love, I haven't talked about this in a while, so maybe we'll bring it up again. So the Aerostar, the entire shape obviously moves from the front hood here and goes along your windshield line, which is not a straight line. It has a little bend in it, if you see. The Aerostar is this wedge shape, but there is a slight bend. This angle of your hood is slightly different from this angle of your windshield line. So all your movement is flowing backwards. And then this line right here on these windows, this is all flowing forward. So you have this contrast in motion, and that actually goes all the way to your rear hatch. So this line of the back of your rear window, and then where the sliding window meets the back window, and then the front of the sliding window, all those lines are these wonderful parallel lines. They all come down at basically the same angle. And so you have this sense of motion moving in the opposite direction. I just absolutely love that contrast. Now, you have more lines moving in this forward direction, but the line moving in the rearward direction is at a steeper angle. So again, you have this balance of a singular line at a steeper angle versus multiple lines at a slightly less steep angle. And so the balance of that contrasting, movement is just so wonderful to me. And then it's all broken up perfectly. Another thing this white door does is it really separates the front of the Aerostar from the rear of the Aerostar. And that line, this perfectly straight vertical line, breaks up those two sets of movements. So it's just outstanding. It's really, I feel like you could teach a course on, designing lines and angles just based off the Aerostar. It is so well balanced. And I absolutely love that. So really fantastic picture there. Let's move inside. Now the inside, even here, this is just your sort of standard gold and with red piping seat. But I've never seen so much contrast. Maybe it's just the lighting, but this almost looks like, they piecemealed the seat together too. It's like they have a gray interior with a gold interior mixed together, and we have this red piping here. So I've never seen quite so much contrast on the interior and the seats. Now sometimes I tend to be a little hyperbolic when I think I've never seen something before. Maybe we'll see another Aerostar in the next episode that has this, but I always remember those gold tan interiors. Even the hue of this looks more like tan and less beige than I'm used to. Very, very interesting, but maybe that's just because there's so much contrast in this middle section that looks to be gray instead of like tan or gold. Again, very nice equipped interior. This is a 91, so you have the pre-facelift interior, but again, these red sort of piping everywhere on the interior just gives it that little extra bit of elegance and sophistication, which is lovely. Giant automatic shift lever here. Absolutely love it. Looks like we have an aftermarket stereo, and this seems like it is an upscale model because it has your center console, which I do not believe is on any of them. And I believe up here you will see that programmable trip computer that they were talking about. Although it looks like we're not going to see an actual picture of it. Again, your beautiful lumbar support controls here to inflate or deflate your seats, which is a great, great feature. So I guess it's not an Eddie Bauer like I sort of teased earlier. I thought maybe it was. Maybe that badging, the Badger is probably just an XLT badge. This is probably an XLT, and as we can see, this large contrast in the stitching here is apparent. Now these seats look like, I can't, it looks like there's a little bit more wrinkles in the seats than I'm used to seeing too, as if possibly it was reupholstered at some point. And maybe it was like a gray interior, and then when they reupholstered it, just on the bottoms and the tops here, maybe they did it in gold. I don't know, but that doesn't really make sense because the rest of the plastic molding and stuff is gold here too. So I'm trying to do a little bit of Aerostar sleuthing. And again, you see some discoloration, so maybe it's just stained, but again, I've never seen such a contrast in the seat, and the red, obviously, piping sort of highlights that contrast even more. A little bit of staining going on here. But again, it kind of fits the overall vibe. If this interior was too clean, it wouldn't really match with the outside of the vehicle. So I'm glad it's got a little bit of jank to it. Another thing we're not talking about is this has captain's chairs, which was a pretty rare feature, and a lot of people prefer the captain's chairs to the double bench. Now that means you can't fold it all into one bed if you wanted to, that was a cool thing about the factory seats. A lot of them, I think not all of them, but some of them, the two bench seats would each fold down, to a flat angle, and in totality would create this beautiful bed. So, if you're doing overlanding or something like that, you don't really have to make some custom bed. You can just flip the seats down and it becomes your bed. And with this big white sliding door here, it's just really perfect. Absolutely love it. Love the white bumper. In this extended model, you just get a sense of how much room there is. I mean, this is your second row. I just saw a Honda Pilot from a few generations ago, which I love. I love the styling of those big square boxy Honda Pilots. I think it was like the second generation. And it does have 3 rows, but you look at the third row, there's basically nothing behind it. So this almost looks like, if you just saw this, you'd be like, oh, maybe there's just one set of driver's seats there in the front. But no. There's captain's chairs after your driver's seat, and then there's another full bench here. And even after that, you have all this room. I mean, it looks like 3 feet of room. So the carrying capacity of these things is just tremendous. And again, if you take out all those seats, then you just have this huge wide berth. It's not really compromised at all. Sometimes the doors are all weird, and you have a pretty straight shot here. It even opens up a little bit at the top, but even this bottom berth here is plenty wide. Your wheel wells don't really get in the way too much. Again, these could fit full 8-foot sheets of plywood in there. Just a tremendous vehicle. There you go. And as if I asked for it, now we have a shot of just one captain's chair, it looks like. And this is the great thing. I have a friend, he has a Mercedes Metris. He loves it, but he bemoans the fact, because it's got a big bulkhead in it, that he has a child and he can't fit the child. He doesn't want to put the child in the front seat, in the baby seat, and he wishes he could just get, one singular seat in the back just to carry, his child, but still fit a lot of stuff and not have to constantly move things in and out, blah, blah, blah. And this is the perfect setup in that. You put one captain's chair in here, you put the baby seat in there, and you still have all this space to be able to, if you got gear in there, but you just need to move the kid real quick somewhere, go pick him up from daycare, whatever. Grandma's watching him, Gigi, So I always tell them, take that Metris, sell it for 20 grand, buy an Aerostar for, 1900, and then say you need to put 5 grand into it to make it mechanically perfect. Well, go replace all the belts, go replace the battery, go replace, do a valve cover gasket on it, get an oil change, do your plugs and wires, do all that stuff to it. And yeah, down the road, you might need to do a little bit more maintenance, but it's not as if he hasn't done maintenance, unscheduled maintenance to his Metris anyways. He also has a GMC pickup truck that him and his wife share, and that thing's had tons of things go wrong with it, So even if you buy a brand new vehicle, yes, it may be covered under warranty, some of that stuff, but some of that stuff isn't, and those warranties, run out after 3 or 4 years usually. So you take your chances with this, you put some money into it up front, and you can have the ideal scenario. So just another way that the Aerostar's versatility is just unmatched, in my opinion, even with most vehicles of the present day. There you go. Look at all that space in there. And quite luxurious, I might add. The nice soft carpet here with your red piping, which goes all the way to the back. They really didn't scrimp. all the sort of features that were in the front of the car extend all the way to the back of the vehicle. I absolutely love that. These little pockets with your mesh netting here, very nice. And even inside you get the two-tone with a lighter sort of tan plastic molding and the slightly darker like golden carpeting. A really nice carpet. It's nice on, you know, a lot of these contractor vehicles, it's just this hard plastic or hard metal at the bottom, and people put down cardboard or whatever, but this is carpeted on the entire floor, so it's nice and soft on your knees if you're crawling in there to you know, load it. And you even have this wonderful little step up that makes it easy to gain access to this rear cargo / seating area. There you have it. I mean, absolutely stunning. 1991, a good year for the Aerostar. I think it was really starting to come into its own. I believe 91, or, you know, around that time, maybe 90, 89 was when the first extended models came out. I don't think they were offered at the very beginning. A couple years into their run, the extended came out, and that was sort of a big deal. There were advertisements.
The Ford Aerostar. It doesn't take much to get into.
There's one great advertisement, maybe I'll put a clip in here, where I think, I believe a lady, like, you know, extends her, like, it's like early computer graphics, and she like pulls out the Aerostar.
You can even get extended length without overextending yourself.
And it gets longer. Just fantastic. The
Ford Aerostar. Buy it at your local Northwest Ford dealer.
I really want a long one. You know, they just have this presence to them, that extra little space in the back. And I would be very, very blessed and fortunate to have this one, because I think the jank level is just perfect on it, you know. And a car like this, you know, there's something to be said for, you know, I heard a story once about Cal Ripken Jr., the baseball player. I was a big Orioles fan growing up, still am. And when he was, you know, driving around Baltimore, he would drive like this beat up old station wagon. You know, here he is, a millionaire. And it was like a security thing, you know, like no one was going to break in. If you had a brand new Mercedes or Dodge Viper or whatever, you know, you might get broken into. You're driving this thing around, chances are no one's really going to break into your vehicle. So there's a whole thing about driving janky cars where it's a perceived value thing. And so, you know, that's just another little thing to consider in the whole package. A wonderful looking Aerostar. I wouldn't do a thing to it. I'd drive it as is. I love the little, you know, rust repair spots and patina and the white bumper and the white door. Let's look at that one more time, shall we? Just, you know, this is perfection to me. I mean, you know, it just has all these wonderful elements of realness to it, and I love that. I think that, you know, oftentimes we're striving to make everything perfect, and nothing's ever perfect anyways, so why not just you know, leave it as it is and celebrate, you know, the life that it's lived, the miles that it's accrued. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's a badge of honor. That means this thing has, you know, been a workhorse and reliable and valiant, and continues to be so to this day. And it can be yours for less than $2,000 and a plane ticket to Mexico. So, there you have it. Boy, I hope someone scoops this one up. And, you know, if you're down in that area and, you know, feel like being an Aerostar exporter, then, you know, give me a call. So, thank you so much for watching. We have hit the amazing 500 subscriber milestone. I'm so happy, so fortunate. I'm going to have another video coming out soon just dedicated to that alone. I'm so appreciative to everyone who watches and comments on these videos. Really appreciate it. So, but, you know, we're not resting on our laurels here at Janky AF. We're going to have another year of the Aerostar coming out very soon. And until then, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.